Joining me now is our royal commentator, Alastair Bruce, who also happens to be the historic advisor on Downton Abbey, where he worked alongside Dame Maggie. Alastair, good to see you, as always, and slightly different circumstances to what we normally talk about. So tell us about how you came to know her.
Well, I worked on the Downton Abbey project right from the very beginning. And in each case, it was the responsibility of the historical advisor to bring people into a period and to understand what the time was like. And of course, I was a bit nervous the first time I sat in front of Maggie Smith because, you know, she was a titan of the filmocracy. And here she was about to fill a role in the aristocracy. And she did it quite beautifully. And she was a nerve-wracking person to brief and train. But in the second year, when I talked about the First World War, having been in a military environment all my life, she came afterwards and gave me the most wonderful hug. And she worked really closely with me from then on. I think she understood that I was there to make sure that even in her level of acting, we could just elevate everything that little bit further into the story. She was just a slightly nerve-wracking person, but someone who you just couldn't take your eyes off when she was acting. She just completely encompassed every role. And I watched many others beyond Downton Abbey, but working with her on Downton was just great.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something there, Alastair. I mean, phenomenal actor as well, phenomenal skill, but natural presence and charisma. I met her briefly at a premiere 20 years ago, and that came across there. And she wasn't performing, she was just naturally magnetic.
She was very sharp. She had a very observant way, and she would spot a weakness quite quickly. And sometimes she was quite ruthless when she did. But at the same time, if she was with the team who were putting together a show and she was acting and she was playing her part, she had a very elegant way of lifting the team and ensuring that everybody felt that professionally they were delivering something special. She could make you laugh. I mean, she just had this way of lifting the words that Julian Fellowes wrote and turning them into worldwide jokes, really, like, you know, what is a weekend, or is it cold up there on the moral high ground? But she delivered those sort of lines with a tremendous capacity to captivate. And she just did it with, it seemed, ease. But what was even more special is the way that she brought younger actors in who were obviously a bit nervous to be with her. And she made sure that they got the best out of their role too. And I think she was very generous that way.
Yes, and around half an hour ago, Julian Fellowes told me that off camera, she was just as much fun, a dry sense of humour, he said.
Very dry. I mean, terrifyingly dry. And sometimes, you know, a very interesting language. She had the capacity to pepper an observation with some fairly interesting language. And, you know, you just needed to watch out when she was on the warpath. But at the same time, particularly in the latter stages of Downton Abbey that she took part in, she was getting a little bit less able physically. And I think she had some pains. And I loved the way she just conquered that. And although it must have been a tremendous burden for her, she overcame it every time and delivered, I think, right up to the end of her involvement in Downton Abbey, the most beautiful performances that I think have marked out not only that show, as she did with so many others like Harry Potter, but she just had a fingerprint of brilliance that she placed upon everything that just made it her own.
And Alastair, we talked a little bit earlier on. I mean, it's such a long career that overlapped with the likes of Sir Laurence Olivier on Broadway, 2 Oscars. You know, you wouldn't mind if someone like that rocked up on set and was starry because they've earned the right, but she wasn't.
No, I remember her on Death on the Nile. You know, I watched that when I was quite young, and even younger, the prime of Miss Jean Brodie. And she adapted from being a beautiful young woman right through to being a very terrifying, rather distinguished senior lady, with her skill absolutely intact and without a single failure, it feels, in the quiver of all her experience. She just delivered arrow after arrow of excellence. And working with her, it was just a great privilege to be a part of something that she really gave elegance to. And she just, when she walked onto set, you got this sort of buzz. You know, she was there. And just by being there, you felt that she brought some magic. And she was, of course, both magical in Downton Abbey, but also in Harry Potter, which embraced this new generation. And I remember when we were filming with Downton Abbey, sometimes young people were much more interested to see the person they knew in Harry Potter than the person we had with us, who was Violet, Countess of Grantham. But, she reached to all sorts of generations. And I think, she's going to reach on into the future as somebody who has carved a place in the celluloid life of the country. And, she was made a dame and then a companion of honour. These are two huge honours to receive, and she deserved them, each and every one.
No doubt about that. Alastair, good to see you as always. Alastair Bruce there, talking about the life of Dame Maggie Smith, who's died today at the age of 89.